Good morning, welcome to Breakfast with Dan Walker and Sally Nugent.
The headlines for you at 8 o'clock this morning. A last supper for Brexit. The Prime Minister heads to Brussels in a final attempt to pave the way for a deal.
We want to avoid tariffs on our trade with the European Union, but it can't be a deal at any price.
It's day 2 of the UK's vaccine rollout, and we're here in a hospital in South London just as the first patients are starting to arrive. We're going to talk to them and see how they're getting on.
8 former rugby professionals sue the sport. They say repeated blows to the head are to blame for early onset dementia. We will be speaking to one of them, former Wales international Alex Popham, at 8:30.
Good morning. Are we all going on a summer holiday? It's been a terrible year for travel, but businesses have told Breakfast that bookings are being boosted by the vaccine. But what do you need to consider before you spend your money?
And the cobbled streets of Weatherfield turn 60. We'll speak to a man who's been there from the beginning.
Good morning. It's a fairly cloudy start to the day. We've got some showery rain to clear the east. Sunny spells follow on behind, but there will be further rain in the west later. I'll have all the details in 10 minutes.
Good morning, it's Wednesday the 9th of December. The Prime Minister will fly to Brussels this afternoon for face-to-face talks with the head of the European Commission in what's being seen as a last-ditch attempt to make a breakthrough in trade negotiations.
The two sides have until the end of the month to agree on a new relationship between the UK and the EU after Brexit. Let's speak to our political correspondent, Nick Eardley. Nick, good morning to you. We're hearing from Michael Gove talking about what will happen this evening. Still hopeful of some sort of deal at some stage. What's the Prime Minister got on the menu for tonight?
Morning, Dan. The talks have been stuck for a while now. For the last few days, there's been very little progress. So Boris Johnson's going to sit down with the European Commission President tonight, basically look at a list of the outstanding issues and try and figure out politically if there's some way forward, if there's something they can do that the trade negotiators couldn't to try and get these talks back on track. It was interesting listening to your interview with Michael Gove that he was talking about compromise on both sides being needed to try and get this process up and running again. Have a listen to the Cabinet Office Minister.
Some of the demands that have been made in recent weeks by the European Union's negotiating team do need to be tempered. One of the things that has been put forward is the idea that when the European Union changes its rules, that the UK has to follow suit or face consequences. And the Prime Minister has been clear that we are going to maintain high standards in this country, but we're also going to be a sovereign country, and that we need to be in control of our own rules and regulations, our laws and ways of doing things.
So that's how the UK sees it. Obviously, Europe sees it very differently, and it wants to protect trade and the single market. And the reason that these talks have gone on so long and have been stuck for so long is because the issues are really hard to solve. The positions are quite far apart. So it'll be really interesting to see whether the politicians can find that will tonight to compromise. Don't expect a big eureka moment where Boris Johnson comes back with a piece of paper and says, look, I've got a deal, it's all signed on the dotted line tonight. The hope that the Prime Minister has is that something that can be found that restarts these talks, that gives some room for compromise. But if we've learned one thing over the last few months and years with Brexit, Dan, so these things always go down to the wire, and it doesn't seem like we're at the wire just yet.
OK, Nick, we should be paying very close attention. Thank you.
The car maker Honda is stopping production at its plant in Swindon today because of a shortage of parts.
They've told employees there that they're experiencing vessel delays and congestion at UK ports caused by the pandemic. The companies responsible for transporting shipping containers are warning there could be further disruption when the Brexit transition period ends in January. Here's Emma Simpson.
The Honda car plant in Swindon. Like all the other car manufacturers, the parts arrive when they are needed, a just-in-time supply chain. But it's been hit by delays caused by congestion at the ports. Its production line won't be running today as a result. Gary runs an online toy company, and he's had weeks of delays at his busiest time of the year.
We're particularly affected by things that we're importing coming in from China on containers. There's lots of congestion at the ports. The ports can't cope, and there are some boats that are being turned around and sent back to Holland. others that are being diverted to other British ports. Every company is the same. Every company is in complete and total chaos. But Christmas will go ahead. We will get there, and we will not let anyone down.
So what's gone wrong? Container ships are the arteries of global trade. COVID-19 has disrupted the flow, especially from China. Ports around the world are now having problems. Felixstowe, Britain's biggest container port, has been hardest hit here. It's grappling with a surge in containers ahead of Christmas, as well as Brexit stockpiling, and it had a backlog of PPE containers too. A perfect storm, and the congestion has spread to other big ports too. The ports say things are improving, but volumes could remain high for months. The whole supply chain now wants the government to look at ways to improve capacity to keep these containers on the move. Emma Simpson, BBC News.
The Welsh First Minister Mark Drakeford has defended his decision to end the so-called fire-break lockdown in early November. Opposition parties have accused the Welsh Government of losing control and lacking a strategy as infection rates have risen since restrictions were eased.
We didn't come out of them too early. We had 17 days of a fire-break period. The fire-break period did everything that we had hoped. It set the clock back 3 weeks. It gave us 3 weeks where the R number was below 1. It is in the weeks since the fire break that we have seen the gains that we obtained during it waning. And that is partly because, despite the very strict rules we have here in Wales, fatigue, people's sense of no hope for the future has meant that not everybody has been willing to abide by the restrictions that are still necessary.
Joe Biden has promised that 100 million Americans will be vaccinated within his first 100 days in office. Speaking at a press conference, the US President-elect urged Congress for more funding to deal with the pandemic, warning that it might well get worse before it gets better.
If the UK is going to meet its ambitious carbon-cutting targets, we all need to change the way we live our lives. The Committee on Climate Change has produced what it calls a route map to net zero, which says that, as well as switching to electric vehicles, we'll need to change the way we heat our homes, fly less frequently, and eat less meat.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.